This is Critical News. Gamescom was last week, so let's see what fell out of the world's largest festival for computer and video games. Remember 3 weeks ago when I said this? I'm still praying to the Emperor for Dawn of War 4. Well, my prayers have been answered. Dawn of War 4 exists. After 8 years of pretending the third game never happened, we're getting a proper sequel that understands what made the original work. King Art Games took over development from Relic with Deep Silver handling publishing duties. Relic split from Sega back in March 2024 during widespread restructuring, and the original Dawn of War team scattered to the winds years ago anyway. King Art made Iron Harvest, which proves they understand squad-based RTS mechanics even if that game never quite caught fire. The smart decision here is drawing inspiration from the 2004 original instead of the sequels. The Blood Ravens return as Primaris Marines fighting on Cronus, that blood-soaked world where Dark Crusade played out. Scout Sergeant Cyrus provides narration in the trailer about a fractured Imperium placed in this timeline after the Great Rift tore the galaxy apart. We're getting 4 factions at launch. Blood Ravens represent the Space Marines, Orcs bring their eternal war, Necrons rise from their tomb worlds, and Adeptus Mechanicus finally make their series debut after years of fan requests. That translates to 10 commanders and 110 units total, making this the largest launch roster in series history. The original game with all its expansions eventually supported 9 factions, so expect DLC campaigns for Imperial Guard, Chaos, Eldar and the rest of the 40k universe. The Adeptus Mechanicus inclusion carries serious potential because tech priests in the cyborg armies bring mechanics this series has never explored. Cybernetic enhancement, machine spirits, weapons that blur the line between technology and religious faith. Their fusion of flesh and steel could create distinctive gameplay opportunities. Base building makes its return after being exiled in Dawn of War 2 and botched in Dawn of War 3. The population cap expands to 300 units from the original 200 limit, and larger maps promise battles of unprecedented scale without artificial restrictions choking the action. Sync kills return with expanded sync combat, where units lock into prolonged melee sequences, those cinematic moments that made individual soldiers feel like warriors worth preserving. Cover mechanics appear throughout the footage, with Marines taking defensive positions behind barriers like they should have been doing all along. Unit veterancy returns to create attachment between player and forces, making experienced squads too valuable to sacrifice carelessly in desperate situations. John French co-wrote the campaign, bringing his experience from Horus Heresy novels like The Solar War and Praetorian of Dawn, plus the Ahriman series that follows Thousand Sun sorcerers navigating betrayal and forbidden knowledge. French writes military fiction with complex political intrigue and moral ambiguity instead of simple heroic narratives. This should elevate the storytelling above typical RTS campaign fare. Each faction gets its own campaign with CGI intros and cutscenes, playable solo or with a friend in co-op. Last Stand mode returns from Dawn of War 2, that survival experience where elite forces face endless enemy waves while building persistent character progression. The pre-alpha footage shows rough edges that need attention. Unit animations lack polish and map layouts appear constrained with narrow pathways that create choke point problems. The visual presentation draws uncomfortable comparisons to Dawn of War 3, which might concern fans who rejected that game's aesthetic choices. But the fundamentals look correct, base building restored, larger armies enabled, and faction variety that offers both familiar comfort and genuine innovation. We might finally be getting the Dawn of War that fans have been waiting for since 2004. Paradox announced a release date for Europa Universalis V, November the 4th, along with a feature list longer than the 30 Years' War. They're rebuilding core systems that haven't been touched since the third game, which means we're looking at fundamental changes instead of incremental improvements. The military system gets completely overhauled from abstract army stacks to commanders overseeing both land and naval forces with meaningful tactical decisions. You'll start in the age of levies and mercenaries, then evolve through social development to standing armies and advanced fortifications that reflect genuine historical military progression. Population simulation goes deeper than any previous EU game, with provinces divided by religion and culture creating internal management challenges that go beyond simple numbers on a spreadsheet. Your decisions about tolerance policies, religious conversion and cultural assimilation carry mechanical weight that shapes how these populations develop under your rule. The economic system expands beyond basic trade goods to encompass dozens of crops and resources, letting you invest in feeding growing populations or trading surplus products to less bountiful societies. Estates return with expanded mechanics where you balance competing factions jockeying for power, offering privileges to one group while limiting another's influence to maintain political stability. Societal values become core mechanics that shape your nation's development path. Centralize power at court or share it with nobles, pursue religious tolerance or condemn heretics, emphasize mass armies or elite professional soldiers. These choices create meaningful differences in how your nation evolves through the centuries. The scope covers hundreds of playable nations from the Yuan dynasty to Italian city-states, with historical events getting the alternate history treatment. The question isn't whether Paradox can design ambitious systems, they've proven that capability repeatedly. The question is whether they can ship them in working condition without requiring a year of patches to reach acceptable quality levels. EU5 addresses every major complaint about the current game through population mechanics, military depth, and internal politics. If Paradox executes these promises properly, this could become the definitive grand strategy experience they've been building towards for decades. Project Kingpin shared their first development log with refreshing transparency that stands out against typical early game announcements filled with concept art and marketing promises. This criminal empire strategy game set in early 2000s America shows actual functional systems that you can see working in prototype form. The team spent 4 months in pre-production analysing other games in the crime simulation genre, breaking down what worked and what failed, then digging into community feedback to understand why players stuck with certain games or abandoned others entirely. That research shaped their design approach in ways that show professional development practices many indie studios skip entirely. Current prototype systems include gang management where you recruit members, promote leaders, dismiss deadweight, and level up your crew through successful operations. Criminal activities let you form specialised squads to execute robberies and build your network across the city. Economy logistics create production chains with upgrade paths that generate the resources needed to expand operations and defend territory against rival gangs trying to muscle in on your business. Heat management simulates rising police attention with escalating crackdown consequences as law enforcement responds to your growing influence. Reputation mechanics track how the neighbourhood views your organisation based on the choices you make and the methods you employ. The dialogue system handles interactions with NPCs and story decisions that shape how your criminal enterprise develops. Development priorities focus on improving the core gameplay loop that connects criminal activities, economic management and social dynamics into a coherent experience. They're working on UI polish and better player onboarding, expanding territory control mechanics and dynamic NPC systems, integrating early sound design and preparing for closed playtesting in the coming months. What stands out is their honesty about the current development stage and realistic scope instead of promising revolutionary features on massive scale. They want to create a solid criminal empire strategy game that learns from previous attempts in the genre while executing those concepts better than their predecessors managed. The crime simulation genre offers limited successful examples to draw from. Gangsters showed ambition but suffered from technical problems. Empire of Sin had interesting ideas but rough execution. Omerta felt oversimplified for the subject matter. Project Kingpin could succeed by focusing on core systems and polished execution instead of feature bloat that spreads development resources too thin. They haven't announced a release timeline, which makes sense for a prototype stage project that's being transparent about its current development status. The methodical approach and clear communication suggest this team understands what they're building and has a realistic plan for getting there. Worth monitoring if you missed the strategic depth that games like Gangsters promised but really delivered properly. World's Edge is expanding Age of Empires 4 with Eastern-themed content that includes 4 variant civilizations like the Golden Horde and Sengoku forces, 8 new maps across 6 biomes, and a roguelite single-player mode called The Crucible that adds randomized objectives and unlockable upgrades for replay value. The November 4th release date comes with a 15% pre-order discount on Steam, and given that Age of Empires 4 has maintained solid quality post-launch, this expansion deserves attention. Ubisoft is offering a proper 2-week demo release for Anno 117 from September the 2nd to the 16th, letting players choose between the Roman heartland of Latium or the Celtic frontier of Albion as starting provinces. Each province offers different developmental paths and religious systems where players can choose between enforcing Romanization or preserving local traditions. Decisions that affect technology trees and city development across more than 150 possible discoveries. The game won Best PC Game at Gamescom 2025, suggesting the demo build impressed judges enough to merit attention before the November 13th release across PC and consoles. Possible 1 focuses on building the first industrial moon colony using real-world technologies instead of science fiction hand-waving, covering standard colony management elements like resource extraction, facility construction, and survival challenges including radiation exposure and low-gravity effects. The realistic technology approach could distinguish it from typical sci-fi colony builders. NORSE Oath of Blood released a new gameplay trailer showing this turn-based tactics game set in Dark Age Norway, where players control Gunnar seeking revenge for his murdered father through settlement building, alliance forging, and warband tactical combat. The Viking setting has potential. Turn-based tactics represents a crowded field where atmospheric theming alone will guarantee success against established competitors like Battle Brothers. Friday's episode of Critical Moves is up in the air, and I'm waiting to see how the cards land. 10 days in Portugal and some technical challenges mean I'm currently scrambling to find something to publish. Stay tuned, we like surprises remember. We'll see you then and come back next Monday for more critical news.